Wrestle Palooa is now over and it kinda sucked. Seriously, I could make an entire video breaking down all of the reasons why I thought this was an absolute flop, but I don't want to be so negative. So in short, here are my thoughts on every match from Wrestle Palooa. The only thing worse than this match is the fact that now we're gonna get it again. 1.5 out of 5. This was just a pretty good Raw main event, and this was just a pretty good SmackDown main event. 3.25 out of 5 for both. This match was super fun, although it took way too long for AJ to get the hot tag. Once she did though, it was a blast. 3.75 out of 5, and obviously number 1 is Io versus Stephanie. This thing was awesome. I was gonna go 4.25 out of 5, but then Stephanie hit the spiral tap. 4.5 out of 5 easy. So overall, Wrestle Palooa, not a great show in my opinion. But even though it was one of the weaker PLEs of the year so far, there is one universally agreed upon great thing that happened at the show, and that is Stephanie Vaquer becoming the new Women's World Champion. Originally, I had wrongly predicted Io Sky to win the match, but I am so happy to be wrong. Stephanie Vaquer is incredible. I hope she holds the title for a while. And given the fact that WWE Creative hasn't been the best as of late, just look at Wrestle Palooa and the weeks leading up to it, I thought I would do them a favor by prescribing how they should book Stephanie as the Women's World Champion. Some call it fantasy booking, I call it the agenda. I'm Brandon, this is Wrestlin' Wrestling Talk. Let's predict every match of Stephanie Vaquer's world title reign between Wrestle Palooa and WrestleMania 42. So after Wrestle Palooa, the next match for Stephanie Vaquer is Crown Jewel, where she'll be facing Tiffany Stratton for the Crown Jewel Championship. Side note, I've always hated the idea of the Crown Jewel Championship because I don't like both champions facing each other. One loses, and then just by nature of them losing, they look weaker. After last year's Crown Jewel, both Gunther and Nia Jax's title reigns went straight down the tubes in my opinion. And honestly, I don't think either of them have fully recovered since. But anyway, before Crown Jewel, I actually think we're gonna see Stephanie defend her title on an episode of Raw against most likely Roxanne Perez, just so Stephanie gets a clean win and looks strong going into the Tiffany match. Once we get to Crown Jewel, it's going to be Stephanie versus Tiffany Stratton for the Women's Crown Jewel Championship, and I got Stephanie winning this. In my opinion, Tiffany's title reign has already gone on too long. She probably should have lost it at SummerSlam, to be honest, and I don't think it makes sense to have Stephanie win the title at Wrestle Palooa in this big moment just to lose her next big match at Crown Jewel. I think you keep Stephanie's momentum going by her beating Tiffany at Crown Jewel, and honestly, a loss to Stephanie may be the most interesting thing to happen to Tiffany as champion. After Crown Jewel though, there is another edition of Saturday night's main event on November 1st. Whatever happens at this show, I think is going to help set the stage for War Games, which happens later in November. But leading into the November edition of Saturday night's main event, I think the biggest match to do is Stephanie Vaquer versus Asuka. Stephanie has said in interviews that she wants to face Asuka on a big stage, so I think this would be a huge match that unfortunately ends in a DQ. Kairi interferes, the ref rings the bell, Asuka and Kairi double team Stephanie, but then Rhea Ripley and Nikki Bella come in to break it up, but then Roxanne and Raquel come in to side with the Kabuki Warriors, then Io Sky comes out to side with the babyfaces. You see where I'm going with this. Because at War Games, I think we are essentially going to have Team Becky Lynch versus Team AJ Lee. Becky is going to team with the Judgment Day and the Kabuki Warriors, and AJ Lee is going to team with all of the babyfaces on Raw, including Stephanie Vaquer. At War Games, the babyfaces are going to win, probably due to AJ getting the pin on Becky, and leading into the December edition of Saturday night's main event, I think we get Stephanie Vaquer versus Nikki Bella. After the win at War Games, Nikki is going to ask for a title shot. Stephanie, out of respect, is going to give it to her. Obviously, Stephanie is going to beat Nikki clean, and I think that loss is going to be one piece of the puzzle that eventually leads to Nikki Bella turning heel. But now we're in 2026, and I think Stephanie Vaquer is going to be the Women's World Champion leading into WrestleMania 42. So who's going to win either the Rumble or the Chamber to face her? To me, there are two options. One of them is Liv Morgan. At this moment in time, I think Liv Morgan is the frontrunner to win the Women's Royal Rumble. She's supposed to return in early January, so I think that means she is going to return during the Rumble itself. And after being in every Women's Rumble to date, I think this is the year that Liv Morgan finally wins the Royal Rumble and challenges for a world title at WrestleMania. Liv Morgan versus Stephanie Vaquer is a big match. I could absolutely see that that happening, but I could also see Liv Morgan going after Tiffany Stratton. Just like Naomi shocked everyone by going after the Raw title as opposed to the SmackDown title, I think Liv Morgan can do the same thing where she wins the Rumble and instead of challenging for the Raw title, she goes after the SmackDown title. To me, I'd rather see Liv versus Tiffany than Liv versus Stephanie, so if Liv Morgan wins the Rumble and challenges for the SmackDown World title, you could probably guess who I have facing Stephanie at WrestleMania. I got Rhea Ripley winning her first ever Elimination Chamber, earning a shot to face Stephanie Vaquer for the Women's World Championship at WrestleMania 42. Rhea versus Stephanie is the biggest marquee match you can make, period, and a match that big I think has to happen at WrestleMania. And once we get to the match, I think Stephanie Vaquer wins, fully cementing herself as one of the biggest stars in WWE. But that's it. That is how WWE should book Stephanie Vaquer between Wrestle Palooa and WrestleMania 42. Long story short, I don't think she should lose the title anytime soon. What do you think? Comment below, let me know, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.